Scott Coons of Bayonne, New Jersey. I'm going to talk a little bit about sea scouting, my sea scouting days around the bridge and around the harbor of Bayonne, the harbor around Bayonne. And I was 14 when I went into the Sea Scouts. I was always a saltwater kind of guy, a river rat, bay rat. My father was a member of the Jersey Yacht Club. When I was 5 years old, I can remember hanging around the bay and the yacht club down there, and just always wanting to be around boats and the water. And when I became of age, some of the guys that we're hanging out with were Sea Scouters and Boy Scouters, and the Sea Scouting thing sounded pretty good to me. And that's when I sailed most of my life, but that's when I was introduced to the knowledge of the sea, to learning about the sea out of a book and technically. And that's when my career started.
Okay, I'm Greg Boyle, and the train wreck in 1958 was of interest to me. I was on the road at the time that it happened, and my father happened to be one of the responders. It was there for most of the time. It certainly was a significant event. It was a sad day for Bayonne, but it also was a day where Bayonne got together and showed what they could do in the event of a tragedy. The response was massive, it was instant, and it was rather effective. The bridge itself now, the Newark Bay Bridge, which isn't there anymore, was there because trains have to travel along flat areas. And the material that the trains were bringing, the coal and other materials from the western part of the states, was really intended for New York Harbor. New York Harbor was so important because it was a glacially formed harbor, meaning that it didn't really freeze over for the wintertime. So New York Harbor could be used year-round. It made New York City a major force in commerce throughout its history. At 1958, the entire shoreline of New York was lined with piers and ships, Hoboken, Jersey City. A lot of transport was going on there. Newark Bay at that time wasn't used very much for transport. It wasn't quite as deep. It was filled in. The glaciers that came by also did a lot of deposition in the Newark Bay area, from the Wisconsin Glacier and the Illinois Glacier. There was even Lake Bayonne there at one time. The problem in bringing trains to an area where they could get onto either the ferry boats or the ships is that there's a big igneous formation. Familiar with it as the Palisades. You can see the Palisades up north. You don't see them too much here, but it's the same formation in the geology of New Jersey that stretches all the way down from New York. And it almost ends in Bayonne. It continues a little bit into Staten Island and back into New Jersey. But Bayonne is almost at the southern end of this Palisade formation. So it's a very, very strong rock. It's something that you really can't just shovel out of the way. If you want to get through that rock, you're really going to have to blast your way through, which some rail lines did. But it certainly wasn't an easy thing to do. The trains, again, to get back, would have to either stay on level ground or we'd have to cut through these rocks, which was done. Way up north, the Bergen Arches are a place where it's cut through. There's a tunnel farther up north. The light rail goes through an old Jersey Central rail cut that was made for that, but it was very difficult to do and very expensive. So if the trains could come over at just a level ride, it certainly had an advantage. A bridge over Newark Bay would allow them to do that. So early on, people were looking towards Newark Bay as a place for the bridge. And once again, it wasn't really used for a great deal of commerce. Yes, it was used for commerce, but certainly not as much as the Hudson River or New York Harbor. The first bridge was built in 1864. It was a wooden trestle. It's a mile and 6 long. It just had one track on it. It maintained the level. In the middle of it, it had a double drawbridge, like a bascule bridge. A bascule bridge will lean back and open. Well, this had a double drawbridge that opened in the center and could open up on both sides. So it did still have those two passageways, much like the modern bridge, which we knew, but it was a lot simpler. The 1864 bridge I mentioned because in 1889, the bridge keeper was in the shack when a schooner carrying bricks rammed into it. knocked over a furnace, started a fire, injured him. He was taken to his home on Oak Street, and he died there. So there were accidents on that bridge from early on, and I'm going to refer to that accident a little bit later. In 1901, a new bridge was built that had 2 tracks, so they could have trains going in both directions now. It was still a wooden trestle at that time, and it was beginning to get a good bit of traffic because rail was the way to travel around. By 1926, there was a need seen for a new bridge that could carry the amount of traffic that really wanted to use it. So a fellow by the name of Waddell designed a bridge. It had 2 openings and really 4 lifts to it. It was a lift bridge. As opposed to the bicycle bridge, which will lean back, the lift bridge has heavy concrete weights that are the same weight as the bridge parts, so when they drop down, it'll lift the bridge up using very little energy. And there were 4 of these. One side was 300 feet wide, the other side was 200 feet wide. And it was quite an achievement in engineering at the time that it was built. The bridge was used a great deal at those times. The trains were going over there regularly. There were commuter trains coming in from the shore areas. It would travel on up to the Jersey Central Terminal, where Liberty Park is now. People would take the ferries over there. Also, the freight trains would travel up to that area. So it was a very useful and a very busy bridge. But as the traffic along Newark Bay increased, and as the people in Elizabeth decided they would like to have a port there in Elizabeth and Newark, it started to raise some problems because the bridge just wasn't ready for that type of traffic.
The Bayonne Historical Society decided to do the 50th anniversary of the train wreck of 1958 that happened on the Newark Bay Bridge. And my job is to describe the route of the train that day. It's one of the questions I've always had is, where did this start from, where did it go, and what was its mission on this day, September 15th, 1958. And so to start with, this train was a daily passenger and mail train coming out of Jersey City, and it was scheduled to meet and drop cars off en route. When the train left the passenger terminal in Jersey City at 3:32 a.m., it was designated by assignment number 3303. It had 2 GP7 locomotives made by the Electromotive Division of General Motors at LaGrange, Illinois. In 1952, the lead engine was number 1532. The second one was number 1526. 1532 was the leading engine because it was equipped with cab signals. Of course, the other one, 1526, was not. The balance of the train consisted of 17 cars. Its first stop once it left Jersey City was to go into Elizabethport, where it dropped off a few of the cars, and it continued on down the line until it got to the Bayhead Junction. Bayhead Junction was also a spot where the passengers could be picked up. So after it changed from a freight train to a passenger train, it received a new number 3314, and it consisted of 2 engines, 4 coaches, and a combine car. The combine car was a coach with a baggage compartment at one end and a passenger car at the other end. It had a partition to separate the 2 cars. These 5 cars had come down from Jersey City on the previous Saturday and was part of train 3361 and stayed there until Monday. Ordinarily, the combine car is the first car, but this day, being Monday, it was the last car. The first coach, which was closed to the public, was occupied by a few of the CNJ employees deadheading to work, or in other words, going from point A to point B. And some perished in the accident described below. Engineer Lloyd Sugar Wilburn and fireman Pete Andrews were in the control cab of the train. At 8:28 a.m., train number 3314 rolled out of Bayhead Junction on a schedule that called for the train to terminate in Jersey City Terminal at 10:13 a.m. for a total of 18 stops and 61 miles.